Welcome to Just Asia, AHRC TV's weekly human rights program. These are the headlines. UN to investigate Rohingya abuse in Burma. President Duterte tells EU to mind your own business. Indian journalist harassed for sand mining expose. Teenage boys in Sri Lanka sexually abused at cadet camp. Urgent appeals from Indonesia and Sri Lanka. Welcome to AHRC TV's Just Asia. I'm Jessica Fernando. This week, Just Asia begins with Burma, where the UN has agreed to urgently dispatch an investigation team to probe the abuse amounting to war crimes against the Rohingya Muslim minority. The EU-sponsored resolution was adopted by consensus at the Human Rights Council last Friday. The investigation will be launched with a view to ensuring full accountability for perpetrators and justice for victims. According to the resolution, the investigators must provide an oral update in September and a full report by this time next year. Some countries, including China, India, and Cuba, disassociated themselves from the resolution. Burma's ambassador to the Council has called the decision unacceptable, saying that the Burmese government is conducting its own inquiry into possible abuse in Rakhine State. The army crackdown in Rakhine since October has led to tens of thousands of Rohingya fleeing to Bangladesh amidst allegations of rape, murder, and arson. Activists are calling this a landmark decision by the 47-member Human Rights Council and urge the Burmese government to cooperate. Moving on to the Philippines, President Duterte told the European Parliament to, quote, mind its own business, as it condemned his move to revive the death penalty. During a two-day state visit to Burma last week, President Duterte berated the EU for imposing its, quote, culture and beliefs on others. A resolution delivered by the European Union lawmakers said that it was deeply alarmed that the Philippines was planning to reintroduce the death penalty, which fails to act as a deterrent to criminal behavior. The Philippines House of Representatives approved a version of the death penalty bill this month that will allow the execution of drug convicts by hanging, firing squad, or lethal injection. The draft will now go to the Senate. The president's plan to reintroduce the death penalty and lower the age of criminal responsibility are all part of his war on drugs and crime. Although he had temporarily suspended police drug operations at the end of January, with 7,000 dead in 7 months, operations resumed since March 6th with a promise of less aggression. According to media reports, 28 alleged drug addicts and drug traffickers have been killed in clashes with the police since then, while 1,577 suspects were arrested. Just Asia speaks to Ellecer Ebro Carlos, spokesperson of iDEFEND, the Philippines' largest human rights coalition, for his views.
The extrajudicial killings continued. Actually, two-thirds of the killings were undertaken by unknown hitmen. These are referred to by the police as deaths under investigation. So when the president actually placed a moratorium on police activities, legitimate quote-unquote operations, the killings did not stop. And I think no significant reforms were undertaken in such a short time. It was about 5 weeks that they placed a moratorium on police activities in this war on drugs. But now they have actually re-strategized and have continued Tokhang Phase 2 and Auckland Double Barrel Phase 2. So, the police have again started to enter communities and conduct their operations. Yeah, the moratorium did not have much of an effect, and in fact, killings have not declined. The death penalty, the restoration of capital punishment, as well as the lowering of the minimum age of social responsibility, as they now refer to it, is actually part and parcel of his central platform, rid Philippine society, so to speak, of drugs and crime. And of course, these are palliative, ineffective measures that violate the most basic rights of the people. And the status now is still at the House of Representatives has passed Congress last March 7 after a large indignation rally, which iDEFEND staged. And we brought all our people inside the plenary hall together with the religious sector. And in spite of an overwhelming presence of anti-death penalty advocates, as well as the Catholic Church, the leadership of the House of Representatives nonetheless went along with the arm twisting as well as threats to their colleagues to ensure passage. No? So 216 legislators, the lower house, actually voted in favor and of restoring capital punishment. We know that the majority of the members of the Philippine House of Representatives are against capital punishment. Each legislator has vested interest. They hold, some of them hold valuable committees, and the House leadership that is beholden, politically subservient to President Duterte has actually openly threatened them to remove them from their posts, as well as remove, not go ahead with projects that were promised to them. Now, we expect them to do the same with the lowering of the minimum age of social responsibility from 15 years old to 9 years old at the House of Representatives. It's now at the committee level, and we expect them to engage in the same threats and intimidation. Also, the Senate will also begin soon the deliberations at the committee level through committee hearings and technical working groups for the proposed the death penalty bill. And they've removed all other crimes except those which are drug-related. So plunder has been removed. It will be a difficult road ahead for anti-torture advocates, including iDEFEND, to counter these death bills. Actually, the key challenge for progressive forces, the human rights movement here in the Philippines, is how do we break the normalcy? How do we break the worsening collective sociopathy amongst Filipinos? How do we dispel the misperceptions that attack on human rights ideals, values, and principles? Human rights has been compromised here in the Philippines, and I think this is a growing trend also in the world. The problem is much deeper than Duterte. Duterte merely took advantage of an already deep-seated social crisis, and thus, fascist forces are really staging a comeback. And how do we reverse the shrinking democratic space, the work of human rights defenders here in the Philippines?
In Sri Lanka, 11 teenage boys were sexually abused at the Rantambe military camp by senior students. A group of 23 boys from the Pilavila Mahavidyalaya school attended the cadet training camp from February 16 to 23rd. According to one of the boys, 3 senior students sexually abused 11 of the boys and video recorded the acts. When they tried to object, the teenagers were tied to a bed, stripped naked, their private parts were joked about, and they were assaulted with cups and sticks. They were given only a little food mixed with human spit by the senior students. Although formal complaints were made to the school principal and the police, proper investigations have not been carried out. The police arrested and produced the senior students responsible for the attack before the magistrates' courts, but told the judge that they believed the case was merely a prank played by senior students. Without sufficient evidence, the accused students were released on bail. The principal of the school also told the parents that she cannot do anything about the attack. The boys and their parents are demanding justice. In India, Sandhya Ravishankar, a journalist based in Chennai, has come under threats for her reporting on illegal beach sand mining along the Tamil Nadu coast. Ravishankar has been receiving death threats and facing online abuse for over a month now, which she has blamed on VV Mineral, a sand mining company named in her reports. The journalist has accused the company of stalking and videotaping her, and said the online trolls even leaked her mobile number. The threats began in February, right after Ravishankar published a series of articles covering how laws were violated and reports fudged for over 30 years by powerful mining barons. Subsequently, Ravishankar received a legal notice from VV Minerals accusing her of defaming the company and its owner. After her mobile number was released, Ravishankar was inundated with calls from anonymous people threatening to harm her and even kill her. On March 14th, the journalist made a police complaint. Over 1,000 artists, researchers, and activists have now signed a petition supporting Ravishankar and demanding action against those harassing her. Finally, the Urgent Appeals Weekly features 3 cases, 1 from Indonesia and 2 from Sri Lanka. In Indonesia, Mr. Sutriso was tortured to death in Sigi Police Station, Central Sulawesi Province. 8 police officers have been detained and were given disciplinary punishment but face no criminal charges. In Sri Lanka, Mr. Lionel Emmanuel Pereira, a 3-wheeler driver, was illegally arrested and detained for refusing to drive a police officer, not knowing his identity. On 21st December 2016, he was produced before the Negombo Magistracy on trumped-up charges. Also in Sri Lanka, the case of a 15-year-old girl who was sexually abused on the 25th of February has not been properly investigated, despite a complaint being filed at the Maskelia police station. The alleged suspect, who comes from a wealthy family, was simply released. That is all for this episode of Just Asia. For more on these and other issues, please visit www.humanrights.asia or www.alrc.asia/justasia. Thank you for watching and see you next week.